What is the difference between caring for the life of an individual animal versus caring for the animal herd itself of all of those animals? So instead of caring about an individual deer, you're caring about deer in general.
Yeah.
So the real interesting fact, and to break it down, was if you had a conversation with someone who was anti-hunting or a vegan, you would say to them, listen, all life is precious is what they'll tell us, right? All life is precious, so you're taking life. And I say, okay, so let's use deer as an example, and that's why all the B-roll is deer, but let's use deer as an example. When I go out and hunt and kill my own meat, let's say I kill a deer, the anti-hunter, and I'm going to say that instead of vegan because not all vegans are anti-hunting.
Yeah, that's good.
The anti-hunter will tell me that all life is precious and I killed that individual animal and it was wrong.
Murder.
Right, because you killed an animal specifically. Now, I have an understanding that there's more white-tailed deer in the United States of America right now than ever in history. Ever. Okay? And that we kill 1/5 to 1/8 of the herd every year through hunting and cars and accidents and other issues. And if we don't do that, then the result would be horrendous. And the reason why the result would be horrendous is because there will always be more animals. They're always going to fornicate. They're always going to make new ones, right?
On the podcast, right?
They will always make new babies.
Babies.
But there will not always be more habitat. So the understanding is this. The hunter knows that the dollar spent when they buy a license goes towards conservation. The efforts in the conservation organizations and the things that they've joined, those dollars go towards conservation. Them taking out one deer strengthens the overall herd so that there's room for the young of the year to be able to survive the winter. Because if we don't take out part of that herd, there's barely enough food. And if they're too overly populated, there's too many of them, and they're interacting too much, that's when diseases get spread and other problems, happen. So if we went 1 year without hunting deer in Michigan, or pretty much any state across the country, it would be tremendously harmful to the overall herd. You went 2 or 3 years, you could literally have a population bust that would decimate the deer herd. So that being said, and that's science-based. It's not opinion. It's not an opinion. That's science-based. That's how things work.
Sorry, that's how it works.
Right. It's like facts do not care about your feelings. So take that into consideration now when you come back to the anti-hunter who's saying to you, all life is precious. I'd have to agree. And taking that life and eating it myself, there's a relationship there with that deer that I'll never forget. I'll never forget what it looked like. I'll never forget what it tasted like,
what it did,
the story behind it when it came in. Those are all programmed right here. They don't go away until I start getting Alzheimer's, which I've been forgetting a lot of stuff. You guys got to watch me. But the idea is this, that I think that the anti-hunter has a closed mind about just an individual animal, whereas the hunter, conservationist, looks at the entire picture and cares about the entire deer herd. Because I care about deer on a more intimate level than someone who is just going to care on the level of saying a life is a life, a life is a life. So I found that I think in any debate or any discussion, you could come back to the facts of always arming yourself by saying, I think a hunter-conservationist, I'll say it again, that's the Sportsman Alliance slogan, cares very much about the overall deer herd and the health of the species' longevity, whereas regardless of facts, regardless of science, regardless of any practical information, the anti-hunter will look at it and only care about that individual life.
Yeah.
What they don't realize is that life will be taken one way or the other, whereas treating it like a renewable resource and protecting the herd strengthens and creates more life long term.
Yeah.
So more life is protected. And that's really hard to understand because when you think about it, you're like, you shot him, he's dead, there's less.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works.
No. The other thing is, too, is like someone comes at you and says, oh, how could you kill that? How could you, well, I'm spending money and then I'm volunteering and spending other money and time to develop habitat, to
Buying
do all the
gear,
things that
buying
we
licenses.
do. Yeah, and then giving money to the DNR like that, and other Ducks Unlimited and stuff like that. How much land does PETA own to do habitat development and that kind of stuff?
I've never heard of PETA doing anything habitat development.
What we've done.
Don't give
more,
them any ideas.
If they want to buy land to improve habitat for deer and waterfowl and other things in the world, go right ahead. But again, facts. We spent more money. We've done more than I don't know. It upsets me because no matter what you say, they're not going to listen anyways.
Exactly. Exactly. But AJ, from someone outside of the, I don't want to say outside the hunting industry because you're really not anymore.
No.
But you've been on more hunts than most people that claim to be hunters. We made that joke. What did I say that one time? AJ is probably been on more hunts than people that claim to be hunters.
That wear camouflage at
from Meyer. That's what I said. I believe that. What when I say what I just said? What are your thoughts on that?
I try and think of what the other perspective, how their answer would be, and
don't do that. No, I'm just kidding.
Where
agree with me.
Where the every life is a life, that can coincide with them also saying that with the herd as well. Being, I don't know if they really put into consideration of what the herd does as a whole and how they travel together, communicate.
The argument's mostly emotional for them.
Mm-hmm. How the animal is brought up and the spread of disease is never into the debate as much as it should.
Right.
Because if one single animal could be responsible for the decimation of 20% of the herd, logically that animal should be taken out.
Right.
For the
right.
greater
betterment
good.
of anything. Right.
Mm-hmm. You know?
It's like,
that's why they have the death penalty for humans.
Right. And quarantine.
There you go.
Another kind of more grim look at it is that deer is going to...
He's in a dark place today. He starts crying.
That deer is going to die either way. No matter what. It's not going to live forever. It's going to die. So the way hunters do it is much cleaner and much quicker than a pack of coyotes taking that deer down and eating it alive.
Right. Yeah. It's like the example of, and like the idea of trophy hunting too gets a bad rap quite a bit. So like people say like, hey, trophy hunting's horrible. And I would say that the definition of trophy hunting could really be argued. So like you could argue that my dad is a trophy hunter because he only shoots big mature bucks. Now he eats everything that he kills. Doesn't waste anything, but he shoots giant 9 points. And as a kid growing up, most of the time, if I shot a big buck, it was because that was the one that came in first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas my dad has something called patience. And I think every hunter goes through stages.
Yeah.
And I'm still on the giddy stage a little bit. I don't know that I'll ever get off it, but I'm a little different. But my dad will wait for that 9 point and those sorts of things. And people say, oh, you can't eat the antlers. And he waits for the mature buck. But, let's say he shoots a 5 or 6 year old buck. That buck might survive one more winter. Might.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. But some, don't get me wrong, there's the cases where they live to 10, 11 years old, of course. Yeah. But for the most part, a deer is going to live 6 or 7 years. So in those situations, I just looking at it, like, my dad, is he a trophy hunter? No, you wouldn't want to say that because of the definition that people put on it. But he does go out, and those deer are on his wall, and he also eats all of it and everything like that. But that deer is going to die in 1 year. Jeff with the ice.
I know.
I can't even.
I'm thirsty. Sorry.
But they know.
He's like, I can hear you clinking your.
You ever seen that kid suck on a milkshake? Oh my gosh! When he gets to the bottom, he's like sucking up the rest. Oh yeah.
I enjoy the last little bit of milkshake.
It's awful on a.
Sorry, I'm not going to do the trying to get the last little bit on it. We have a straw. Just use it.
He's like, we'll talk about this in the break. But to recap. My dad is he just did the thing under the table that my dad used to do in church. If you were bad, he would reach over and squeeze your knee real hard. And you're like,
okay.
I'll listen. I'll quit coloring so loud. But that was like that was what Jeffrey just did to me when I said the milkshake thing, which is pretty funny. Don't touch me.
Bring it up here.
In front of everyone, I don't drink milkshakes. He does. So to recap, though, I think that a good argument or a good debate piece would be the fact that when you look at it, I think that hunters really look at the overall health of the herd and really understand the science behind it, whereas the emotional-based argument on the other side is caring about the individual life, which we care about the individual life too. It's not without respect that we take the life, but we consume everything and we honor it in that way, and the overall herd survives because of it. And if the counter-argument often also coincides with there not being a God, so if you want to say that and you're saying we're all the same, well then what about all the other, the people that are anti-hunting but feed their dogs, dog meat, or not dog meat. They feed their dogs puppy chow or whatever, and it's got meat in it. It's like you're feeding your carnivore that. If you don't feed, the people put cats on vegan diets, and you know what happens after a couple of years? They go blind.
Yeah.
They go blind.
They're not getting the nutrients
because they're
they
not
need.
getting the nutrients they need. We're built a certain way. I do, however, and I should have been more careful the way I worded it, where I was lumping in veganism and anti-hunting. I actually have kind of a lot of respect for like the vegan lifestyle in the sense that the simplicity of it, and like they've made standards. Like I don't drink alcohol. I made that decision. I don't do drugs. I made that decision. I never have done drugs. I've never drank alcohol. I've made that decision. Simple. I've just decided to be that way. A vegan looks at all the options and all the things, and they make a decision to live their life a specific way under a specific set of guidelines that doesn't help or hurt anyone else. So I actually have like a lot of respect for the idea of it. I can never do it, but I give them a lot of respect, and I don't want to lump them in the anti-hunting efforts because not all of them are.
Yeah,
a lot of them are, according to our
lot of
Facebook Messenger. But
we noticed the loud ones.
We noticed. That's the truth, though. You get 100 people together, and there's always 5 idiots, and then those 5 idiots are always the loudest, and then they represent the group of like overall, like the mentality overall. So you get a group of 100 of anybody. There's going to be 5 idiots in that group for sure, for sure, and they're always the loudest. So that's kind of the case.
On the topic of the vegans and vegetarians, like you said, a lot of them aren't anti-hunter, and I know a lot of them are just they don't like the quality of meat that is around nowadays.
Right,
being served, coming in the grocery store.
They would much rather have a lot of more greens than the cow meat that's been sitting in the grocery store for 2 days that was killed 3 months ago.
Right. No.
And that's just the other side of the perspective of it, too,
That's a great point.
They don't
That's
become
kind
anti-hunter.
of something that I think you do a little bit of. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
it
know
is.
You do a lot of like vegetarian meals.
Yep.
And it's
I do prefer a lot of them. I could see at first I was like, oh, it can never happen. I could never do it. But when you think about it, it's more likely and more possible in my situations, I guess you could say.
That's why his hair looks like that. It's so beautiful.
And clearly I eat a lot of junk meat.
Oh, I'm glad it was brought up.
Junk meat.
No, I'm just kidding. Perfect day not to wear a hat. No, it's all fine.
I'm over it.
Yeah. But that is actually a great point. I've got a friend that's was a vegetarian, technically vegan, and she'll venture out now and try wild game specifically, but she won't like go to the store and buy meat. She absolutely won't do that.
I've heard with
like once you know too, like you know how clean and beautiful and amazing your meat is that you got off a deer in the middle of the wild. You know where it was. You processed it yourself. It's gorgeous. It's clean. It's nice. It smells good, even raw. Like cooking, it's great and it tastes amazing. It's really hard to like go buy junk meat and end up looking like Jeff. What were you gonna say, Ryan?